Corey Feldman is the comeback king. I saw that video, Mega Cat. I'm the comeback king.
It's a comeback. I'm the comeback king. I am missing nothing.
So now this is an older article, but I use it as kind of a reference point. I did take some good notes to get you guys up to speed on where we are and why we don't have a Friday and a Nightmare movie. I'm not going to read that article. I'm just going to leave it there so you guys can see. But Friday the 13th, let me just give you guys a quick recap on the lawsuit. As of a few months ago, Victor Miller retained the rights. And that's because the time ran out on an appeal. Like, Sean Cunningham could have appealed and this thing could have kept going. But I don't think Sean Cunningham wanted to waste any more time and money on an appeal that he's probably not going to win. Because what this comes down to is the first movie. The first movie has young Jason, who's not the main character of the movie. You know, the main character of the movie, spoiler alert, is Pamela Voorhees. She is the killer. So the title and the killer, not Jason Voorhees. All right. So Victor Miller owns that property. So there was a stipulation in there after 35 years, then that property goes back to the original author, which was Victor Miller. And I'm pretty sure Sean Cunningham probably had that in the back of his mind for 35 years. Oh, shit, what am I going to do after 35 years, right? But what this all comes down to at the end of the day is two old men bickering with each other. And yeah, you could say that Victor Miller could make a movie, but he can't really make a Jason movie with an adult Jason Voorhees because Sean Cunningham owns that character, the adult version of. So I didn't even know this too. You can own rights to a different version of it, like an adult version of a character and the child version of a character, which that kind of blew my mind. But according to the law, even though Sean Cunningham owns the rights to Jason Voorhees, the adult Jason Voorhees, he still has to get permission from Victor Miller, which is kind of strange. I think if that little caveat wasn't in there, then we'd probably already have seen new Jason movies because we don't need to go back to the first movie. But he needs Victor Miller's permission to even use Jason Voorhees. So what you have here is two bitter old men that are not going to budge. And so, unfortunately, we might not ever see a Friday the 13th movie. I mean, like, as long as they're alive. And I'm not saying I want them to die or anything. I'm just saying that's just the way it is right now. You know? But even if one of them passed away, the rights would probably still go to, like, family members. I don't know. So if these two guys actually got together and said, hey, let's come together. There's money to be made. Let's freaking make a movie. And maybe that will happen. I hope it does happen. But right now, it doesn't seem like we're anywhere close to that. Now, a lot of times there's things that we don't know as a public that is going on behind the scenes. You know, that there could literally be two guys sitting at a table right now with a full script for the next Friday the 13th movie. You know, because a lot of times these things don't come out until they need to come out. Okay, and I'm hoping that's what's happening. I'm hoping that you know, a new movie is in the works because I mean it's Jason Voorhees. Fans want the character back so bad. I don't think it would make as much money as Halloween 2018, but I think it would still. I think there'd be a massive celebration. You know, I think people would be like, yes, finally, Jason Voorhees is back. Because in my mind, Jason Voorhees is like the teddy bear of the big three. Like, would you guys agree with that? I think he's like the teddy bear of the big three. There's just a lovable factor to, even though he's got the greatest kills, there's just, maybe it's because he's mentally challenged. Is he mentally challenged? Maybe, I don't know. There's, like, Michael Myers is, you know, evil. There's no lovable factor to Myers whatsoever, okay? He's evil. And Freddy, there's no lovable factor to Freddy either. He's a really dark and sinister character. He has a comedy side to him in some of the later movies, but he's anything but lovable, Like you wouldn't want to hang out with him. Whereas Jason, I don't know, because Jason was the kid that was picked on, And I think that's a relatable character. We can all relate to like bullying and so I think that's one reason why the character has really almost been like an anti-hero to a lot of people, even though he's the killer. So yeah, we want Jason back like you read about. But unfortunately, because these two old men are still bickering, it's probably not going to happen. Okay? It's probably not going to happen. I got some talking points here. It would be huge. People love Jason. He's a Teddy Brother franchise. I talked about that. Okay. Or of the big three. Now, here's where I ask some questions to you guys. Pamela Voorhees. Would you... Because I think this... Like, Victor Miller could sideline the Jason Voorhees character. He still owns young Jason, too. Would you guys like a Pamela Voorhees prequel? Could that work? And how would they handle that, for younger audiences? Like, would they still try to make it a whodunit? I mean, you could still make it a whodunit because it's still a new version of the movie. Going into this said movie, we don't know if it's Pamela Voorhees as the killer. That could be, what if Pamela Voorhees is in the movie and it turns out to be somebody else that's the killer? Because it's the name, Friday the 13th, right? And really that name could entail pretty much any kind of story if you wanted it to. So would you guys be open to them maybe getting creative with the Friday the 13th name and, keeping it the characters, like the Pamela Voorhees character would still be there? Is that something that you would be for? Brett says good, a big yes for him. Holly, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Yes, it could work, and I would watch that movie, Trina. They can adapt the 2 comic book Pamela prequel. Yeah, you got... Thank you, Richard. There's comic books out there. So, you know what, guys? I would be for it. I've always said that Pamela Voorhees is scarier than Jason to me. Like, she was a scary-ass character, Look what you did to him! Jason doesn't say that. She talks. So, but Pamela could have had her own trilogy. Wouldn't that have been cool if Pamela would have been like a... I mean, she is a horror icon, I guess, but what if she had like a trilogy? It'd be like the first franchise that literally has 2 icons, horror icons. Which I guess in a way it is. Which kind of ties into the whole requel idea. Because, and by the way, Pamela Voorhees, if you look on my channel, I did a full, I think like 45-minute conversation with Deborah Voorhees about the character of Pamela Voorhees. And we just, because Deborah loves to talk about the psychological aspect of characters. And Pamela is a very interesting character to kind of dig into her psyche, what's going on there, how she wants to protect her son at all costs, even though her son has been, he drowned in her mind, and she's still killing people. What causes that to happen? What causes that switch to flip? She's a very interesting character. I've always loved the character of Pamela. So going back to the requel idea, and this is just spitballing because this is where Victor Miller would have to come into play. Or not, well, actually both of them. Yeah, Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller would have to come into play because if they did, I think the first Friday, more than Halloween, more than Nightmare, is perfect for the requel formula. Because Jason Voorhees is only like 10 years old in that movie. So, in the present day, he would be, 50? He's still prime. He's still a game player, right? So, it would be really cool if, 40 years later, you got Jason Voorhees, he comes back. Now, what's been going on in that 40 years is, I wouldn't want to be that writer, but something triggers him that makes him come back, Maybe after what happened in the first movie, they shut down Crystal Lake for 40 years, and I can see that happening. They didn't want to be reminded of the tragedy. And then maybe some kids, they hear the legend of it, and they want to like spend the night there or something like that. You know, some people, they like to go to like haunted houses, like the Velisca murder house, and that, you know, you can pay to spend the night. So these kids, they go to the to Crystal Lake, and they're like, you know what? Let's see if we can. You know, this place is kind of like haunted. This lady flipped out. She killed all these kids. Let's spend the night and see what happens. Usually there's security, but somehow they get by security. See, I'm writing the story as we go, okay? And this is why I'm a YouTuber, not a writer. But yeah, Jason has entered the chat, and then Jason's been living there the whole time. It's an easy story to write, I guess. You know, I mean, it's Friday the 13th. You don't have to get too crazy, but yeah, that'd be kind of cool as a requel. I think a requel doesn't feel too forced with a Friday movie. It feels natural. Let me ask you guys this question, because I love asking you guys questions. Jason still reigns supreme with the kills, but is it dated? Because if we think, like, violence in horror movies today I think it's a little different than it was in the 80s. In the 80s, it was a bit more colorful and creative in terms of the kills. Like, one of my all-time favorite kills, not just in Friday the 13th, but just period, is the scene in part 3 when you got the guy walking on his hands. And Jason comes up. Like, I have freeze-framed that kill, like, boom, 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 because I want to see how in the hell they made that look so damn real. And even when you freeze-frame it, it's, like, perfectly edited. Like, that's a testament to great editing, when you can freeze-frame it and bam. Yeah. But yeah, you don't really see kills like that these days. You know, these days it feels like everything's a little bit more visceral, and they're wanting to just get more like guttural and shock value and bloody as hell. You know, like in Rob Zombie's Halloween, there's really no creativity to his kills at all. It's just more brutality. And I think that's kind of the going theme in horror movies these days, is the kills have to feel brutal, like more brutal. Whereas back in the 80s, yeah, they were brutal, but they were creative as fuck, you know? So, even in like I'm trying to think, the remake of Friday the 13th, it wasn't the best in terms of kills. It opted to go more visceral and brutal, you know, which is a way to go. That's fine. But I think that's one of the many things that felt removed from the 80s Jason movies. And the remake, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's fun, okay? I hate Trent. But, yeah, it's just, it feels like a product of today, okay? And that's fine, you know. That's fine. The kills are, like, Halloween Kills, Mark Rend. Halloween Kills had some pretty, even though they're visceral as hell, it did have some pretty cool kills, you know, with the light fixture, you know, that was some cool stuff. In the car, when he shoves the knife up the guy's eyeball. I love how Michael always had the upper hand in Halloween Kills, you know? Just when you thought, you're like, oh, she's going to get the upper hand. She's going to shoot him. It's going to be great. Nope. He opens the door, it turns, and it shoots her right in the face, you know? Nobody's safe. It's awesome. So I got to give Kills credit. It did have some really good kills. Mike Johnston, he says, the New Blood Kills, where he pounds the blonde in the head with an axe and throws her across the room into the television. Yeah, man. That is such a great kill. And she looked like a dead body. Like, she literally, like, you could tell that was a stunt person too, right? But it almost looked like they took a dead doll and threw it in the corner. Am I right on that, guys? Because whoever that stunt woman was, pay her double, because she did a damn good job. I'm just gonna act like I'm a dead body. Can you throw me, please? I'll just stand like this, okay? And somebody grabbed her and just threw her in the corner. And I bet that hurt. But yeah, great point. Man, those kills in the 80s movies, man, just top notch, top notch. Here's another question for you, because we talked about Pamela Voorhees, but also timeline possibilities, okay? Because you do have some different avenues that you could go in the, like, say, Halloween franchise, you know, and I think even Nightmare, but you have some characters that you can kind of latch on to bounce the story forward. Like you have Jamie Lloyd, and yeah, at certain timelines they were killed. I get that, but you could resurrect them, by retconning certain movies. Okay, so you had Jamie Lloyd, you had Laurie Strode, hell, even like Rachel Carruthers. Whereas Friday, Tommy Jarvis is the one character that had like 3 movies. He's the I can't don't get me wrong, Jenny is like my number 2 favorite final girl of all time. Okay, but I mean, let's be real here. Would we want to see a new Friday movie with any other character than either Pamela Voorhees or Tommy Jarvis? Probably not. Okay, those are your 2 moneymakers, I think. Tom Matthews, God bless him. I would love if Tom Matthews came back, and he did come back in Never Hike Alone and Never Hike Alone 2. Well, actually, I don't know if he's coming back, and I'm sure he is. Because he was in Never Hike in the Snow. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on with the Friday story is, thank God for all these fan filmmakers, especially Womp Stomp Films and Vincent DeSante, for what they have done to keep Jason alive. There's more Jason fan films, I think, than any other property, and that just shows how much people love Jason Voorhees. And I think it's also fun to make a horror movie in the woods. It's like prime location. If you can get, because the woods, there's the budget wise, there is no budget. You just go in the woods and you can shoot your movie. It's awesome. But yeah, you got like Vincent DeSante and Womp Stomp Films and a lot of other filmmakers that are making these movies feel almost as good, if not as good, as the real thing. Like when I first saw Never Hike Alone, I was just flat. I was like, wow, we are at this level now. We can do this. The fans can take over. And if Never Hike Alone proved anything, it proved that fans can keep this train going. If there's lawsuits, if whatever stops studios don't care anymore, then the fans can make it happen and they can keep it going. The new Scream fan film that just came out, Zach Salazar, that he put out, people were lapping that thing up. It was every bit as good as most Scream movies. It was really well done. It was, and at the end of the day, they're a blast. They're just really fun movies. So thank God for the fan film community.